Well, yeah, he was a medic. I think it was probably because there was too many firefighters. Huh? Jay was the medic. Excellent. Yeah. At least that's legitimate.
That's why they had union clauses in the
That's it.
They automatically needed to that's like
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. Motion to approve minutes from the prior meeting, please. Motion by Lynn, second. Anyone? Thank you, Brian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Correspondence are all listed there. They're right here for those who'd like to take a look at them. We're going to change up the order a little bit. Our investment advisor is here to meet with us. You already met with the exec board, so we're going to go right to that. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, great, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving me some time out of your meeting. I'll be brief and open it up to questions. My name is Jim Watkinson. I work with RBC Wealth Management. For those of you who are not familiar with that, we are the U.S. division of the Royal Bank of Canada. We handle their investments for institutions and individuals in the United States. I've been working with this organization for about 6 years now. 2010 is when we first started. At that point in time, there was some cash that had accumulated that was, we were looking for an objective to get a greater rate of return than just sitting in the money market. Our first order back in 2010 was to work with the board in establishing an investment policy statement, which we have abided by over the course of the last 6 years when we meet and when we look at the reports and we make recommendations on what to do with cash and capital that's accumulated. Our objective has always been to be conservative. Our main benchmark is to outperform certainly money markets, which pay next to nothing at this point, but at the same time get at least a return that would be equatable to that of a higher quality bond. We have achieved this by investing in certain sectors. We do allow purchases of stocks and bonds and some mutual funds, but primarily these accounts are invested very conservatively, primarily fixed income. There are some reports in the blue binders for those of you who want to take a look. These accounts were opened back in 2010. The initial investment was just over $240,000. We closed the business on Friday. The accounts were valued at just over $307,000. We've had about $60,000 in growth over the time. Translates to just over a 4% annualized rate of return. Right now, we are invested. 51% of the investments are in the money market, and that has been due to one of the bonds that we had was called, and we had some stocks that we sold back in July. That money's remained in the money market since then. Currently, 43% of the portfolio is in insured taxable municipal bonds, and then 6% remains just invested in stocks. We just did the account review, looked over the portfolio performance. Year to date, the portfolio is actually up slightly, largely due to the fact that we have very little exposure in stocks. As you know, those of you who have been paying attention, the markets have been a little bit rocky, in particular really since last August, but really even more so since the end of 2015. So tonight we sat down and reviewed the accounts. We discussed some opportunities that I see in the market. We are looking to reallocate about 1/2 of the available cash to the strategy of taxable municipal bonds, and I'll be getting back to Steve on that with recommendations tomorrow. That will leave still a fair amount of cash available in the accounts. We're gonna leave about $80,000 available in cash in the account to review later in the year, to decide whether or not we want to pursue more bonds, more stocks, or just leave it as we are. But typically with the reporting, I meet with the board at least semi-annually. And then annually, I think this is my second or third time I've met with the general members. So with that, I will open it up for questions, see if anybody has any questions or concerns that they may want to ask.
Anybody have any questions for Jim?
I know I went over it very quickly, but I know you guys are pressed for time. So.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
That's it.
Appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks.
So you making a motion?
Thank you again.
So I made a motion in the executive committee to allocate 50% of our available cash in the RBC investment account to move it from cash or money markets and purchase of taxable municipal bonds. When Jim did review our investment policy statement, he does not have any recommendations for change at this time. The one discussion we did have in the in the executive board is that I think the consensus is that we should be looking at shorter-term municipal bond opportunities as opposed to longer-term municipal bond opportunities. And so I guess it's a seconded motion to allocate 50% of the cash in the RBC account to move towards municipal bonds investment. That will bring our account to approximately 25% cash, 6% equities, and then the remainder, so around 70% would be in taxable municipal bonds.
Second motion from the exec board. Any questions from anyone on this? Any comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good, thank you, Steve. Executive committee will discuss everything out here tonight. Executive director's report.
Hopefully everybody has a copy. A few items of note I'd like to touch base on. Our new Remo hires are working out great. Both J.C. Guzman in the front desk and Deb Cuffs working hand in hand with Dean and QA/QI are both working out well here. And it's great to have a 5-day presence in both of those offices. We talked about in executive board, the life pack modem order has been placed, and it's considerably less than we initially figured when we discussed this item a couple months ago. Initially, we had planned on replacing just about every life pack modem in the region for a cost of approximately $80,000. However, over the course of the last several months, several agencies have opted to pre-purchase their own units, which dropped that base price down about $20,000 to $25,000. We're looking at about $58,000 to $59,000 now to replace about 90 modems. The order has gone into Physio, the check has been cut, and we're just waiting upon arrival of those. But I don't think we'll see those for a few more weeks at least. Annual signal totals have been compiled. REMAC billings will be going out. They started going out today. Other than that, everybody should have a report in front of them. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that would conclude my report.
I went a little out of order. The CON committee, is there anything pending right now?
Nope.
Just happened the fact we're lacking a
Nope,
CON
we wrapped
chair.
up Town of Greenfield back in November, and there is nothing on the docket right now.
Thank you. Steve, you want to say something?
Just a question, Tim, do you have dates for the upcoming EMT classes? I know you were contemplating several in the next couple
Pending
months.
DOH approval, we have a Remo day class, a Remo night class, and a Clarksville EMT night class coming up. Applications have been submitted to DOH. We're just waiting on course numbers, then we will announce those.
Okay, thanks.
But they'll all be early spring.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for Tim, anybody? Move on to treasurer's report.
We're in a very strong financial position. You can see we have total assets of over $600,000, which is great. Just want to reiterate what Steve said. We just voted to put $80,000 into bonds. Understand that this is safe. It's a AAA bond. You can't get much safer than that. The rate of return should be good, and we're looking at an 8 to 10 year probably maturity date on those bonds. So it should be good for us overall. So those of you that'll still be around after that period of time, you can say you did a good thing. We only have accounts payable moving forward of 2479.57. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Kevin? Can I just add one thing back to my report?
Absolutely.
Dean has scheduled, or did schedule, 2 webinars for the annual recredentialing process here, and I think they both were tremendously successful. It gave us an opportunity to reach out to agency administrators, ALS coordinators, and directors to reacquaint themselves with the annual process. Very well received, and I'd just like to give credit to Dean for that. I think it was actually good that we did that. Tremendous amount of participation there, and I think that stated, or made it obvious that it was warranted and needed to do that. So I'd just like to recognize Dean's efforts in that.
Very good. Medical Director, Mac, Academic.
A couple of things. First, we start with the medical director. I just returned from the National Association of EMS Physicians meeting out in San Diego. Somehow on a day like today, when it's a little chilly, that sounds even better. Feel better. We were wearing coats every day in San Diego. A little chilly, fell into the 50s. But one of the things that we did there is spend a lot of time chatting between the medical directors about how our protocols are being developed, what kinds of things that we're doing. And something that was very nice to see is that the protocols really are right on the, not on the cutting edge, but just behind the cutting edge where I think we'd like them to be. We want them to be thinking about really our patients first, making sure our providers are capable of doing this, and that frankly our providers are doing things exactly the way they should be to become a national business. So this was really good to see. From a REMAC perspective, things that we have going on, and I think are really important for us to think about. The REMAC will drop to 6 meetings next year. As I look back in our minutes, we actually approved 5. We're going to end up scheduling 6 to make sure we can get our business done. We found that we were missing some forums, and in the process of instituting a new bylaws for the Medical Advisory Committee, which we frankly have never had, we will also said we will have 6 meetings. For those of you that are going to plan on that, that should be February, April, June, and then likely September, October, September, October, and December would be my expectation. But we'll keep you posted on those dates. The things that we'll be doing in February that many of you may be very interested in doing, we'll have a webinar at the beginning of the February meeting being done by Pete Antebi. Pete, those of you that don't know, is a pediatric emergency physician and medical director of a countywide system in Florida. He has a product out there called the Antebi system that he's been marketing for years. This actually webinar is not going to focus on the product that he sells, but the product that accompanies it, which is actually a computerized or smartphone enabled dosing program for pediatrics. You remember a few years ago, this organization actually agreed to spend some money on the eBraslo system if we could merge it into the protocol. And frankly, after we started the discussion with eBraslo, they evaporated. The Antebi web app looks like it would provide us many of the same advantages. Basically, you put the weight of your patient in. Every drug that we have at our disposal would be in the application. So if you were to tap on epinephrine and put your weight in for your patient, or the color of the length-based resuscitation tape in, it would then come up with the appropriate dose and volume that you would need to administer to that patient in the course of the resuscitation. Having tragically taken care of a young cardiac arrest victim this morning, I was one more time reminded of how helpful that would be for a provider in the field who's calculating doses, drawing up doses, and making sure they're giving those appropriate doses in the field. So while this is one of 2 options that are out there right now, this certainly is an interesting one. Pete will be talking about that and pediatric medication safety at the beginning of our meeting. We'll also be talking about our bylaws, and we'll briefly be talking about the memorandum of understanding that we've already agreed to participate in the collaborative protocols. Something that came up in executive we talked about briefly. It's the idea of the collaborative protocols, and that they are going to be basically senatorial. Each region that participates will get one vote from their medical director or their REMAC chair. Everybody within the region that's interested in participating in the process of designing those protocols can certainly participate. Many of the people around this table have been on those calls in the past, into the meetings in the past. That's been very effective so far. I want to keep on moving on that. Right now, we have a product that's almost ready for prime time. It's actually been sent out to everybody on the collaborative protocols email list, so you can take a look. This is a combination of the Western New York protocols, Monroe Livingston protocols, ours, and the Central New York protocols, taken mostly from what we currently are working with. My comment would be, frankly, that if one of our EMS providers went out the door with the existing draft that's in their hand and practice, they would notice no difference whatsoever, and just frankly find a few things that work a little bit more easily. Something else from a broader perspective, the syringe epi project that you guys have been extremely supportive of right along the way is actually kicking off. Thanks to Lynn, we're doing our first local training Wednesday out in Stephentown, and we look forward to seeing other people come on board after that. The Allergy Advocates Association actually has been so impressed with the idea behind it that they've made a donation to support the project, which is helping a lot because Monroe Livingston region has expended a significant amount of money on this project along the way. So I look forward to other people getting involved in this. The syringes are in, and frankly, they look really good. All they have on them is the .15 and the .3, just like we talked about. So this should be very exciting. And Mission Lifeline is going well so far. We're seeing increased feedback from the hospitals to the field providers, and hopefully that'll translate into more success. We certainly are seeing what seems to be an increase in the number of 12 leads that are being performed on patients that have the potential to have cardiac presentations, which is exactly what we had hoped to find. So I think things are going very well. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. State EMS Council.
The State EMS Council did meet in December, but I have already reported on the things that we covered at that meeting, at our last meeting. We're meeting in March, and a couple topics will be the hallmark of, other than the things Dr. Daly mentioned that really come from the CMAC side that also get done at the Remsco. We're going to be focusing on a couple things. First thing is workforce. Whether you're on the paid side or the volunteer side, we're struggling to have enough people to provide EMS coverage in most communities. And so we're going to try and start digging into some data, collecting information so we can use in public policy. If there's a shortage of people volunteering, then what can we do about it? And if there's a shortage of people entering EMS as a paid career, then what can we do about it? Second, I think there's going to be a focus on rural EMS, not as much that will affect some parts of this region, but certainly we have some parts of this region that are all volunteer, rural, that are definitely struggling. And so the Bureau has been up into North Country a number of times to try and talk about how we can work on rural EMS issues. I think that'll be very important. And the third thing is going to be how we as EMS providers fit into the evolving collaboratives called district, which is where the state is using a very large sum of money to try and get healthcare providers to work with each other to lower inappropriate hospitalization, inappropriate emergency room use, and inappropriate readmissions to hospitals. So it's just beginning to be discussed how EMS providers fit into this with all these big entities like hospitals and nursing homes. But certainly all something we know acutely because we are generally the vehicle that brings the people being readmitted, and we see the circumstances that cause those readmissions, the circumstances that cause those inappropriate ER utilization, and probably have some pretty good ideas to bring to the table about how to make that not happen. Then we'll put the continued focus on community paramedicine and probably the 4 focuses for the Remsco in this upcoming 2016 season.
Thank you, sir. Nurses Committee.
We're meeting this Wednesday at St. Peter's at 3 o'clock.
Thank you. MCI committee.
No report at this time, but as you know, Jim Reagan served on that committee with me, and Jim is in the sunny south, so I would certainly entertain anybody else that would like to work with me on that committee.
Thank you, sir. Membership committee?
We have new appointments for Saratoga County. The representatives are Kevin Robert, Fred Fowler, and Tracy Weir, with an alternate of Ashley Edwards.
Welcome, Tracy.
She's cool, be nice.
Nominating committee?
Thank you to Carol Brandt, Maria Walker, and Steve Kroll for offering to assist with the award committee, and I'll be in touch with you soon.
How about the nominating committee?
Did you ask me that?
I did.
Oh. Sorry, I was excited about the awards. Nominating committee, no wonder Steve looked at me like, what? We put forth the slate of Anne Marie Cross for chair, Steve Kroll for first vice chair, Steve Retzlaff for second vice chair, PJ Keeler for treasurer, and myself for secretary.
Thank you very much. QI.
We have no report. We're meeting next week.
Good. County reports, Albany County.
The county was able to secure a grant for, obviously, you know how you work it, but it's an interoperability grant that they're gonna use to do active shooter, full-scale active shooter drill, with cooperation from the Warriors School District. So that'll be taking place in, March, and then it'll be, the goals, I was actually able to sit in on the first meeting, kickoff of it, and, you know, one of the goals would be to test, our ability to respond to mass casualty type.
Excellent, thank you. Columbia County.
Columbia County is currently starting to develop and working with the county sheriff's department to come up with a collaborative, unified effort in response to active shooter incidents. Only just begun, and our hope is that we can get this going before something really happens.
Thank you. Green County.
No report.
Rensselaer County.
Nothing to report.
Saratoga County, aside from new members, business as usual for us. So Schenectady County.
We've got a committee working on updating our MCI plan for the county. Other than that, no reports.
Thank you. Moving on to new business, we'll go to election of officers. You've all heard the slate put forth by the nominating committee. Is there any nominations from the floor for any of these positions? Any nominations from the floor? And finally, any nominations from the floor for any of the positions? Okay.
I make a motion, close nominations, secretary to cast one ballot
For the whole slate?
for the whole slate.
Second for that motion, please.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Congratulations, everyone. We've already covered that. CMAC appointment. That's Michael, correct? Do you want to comment on your appointment? No?
Thank you.
Thanks for serving, Mike.
You're welcome.
Tim, you want to cover your expenditure request, please?
Okay, two items we're asking for. First one, I think everybody should have a quote. There was a stack of quotes up there. We did purchase some new EMT equipment over the last couple of months, but what we overlooked were our oxygen tanks. They were severely out of date. They were not able to be hydrostatically tested. And I've been made aware for PSE exams, you have to have tanks that are currently stamped and operational like that. So we're asking to replace 4 oxygen cylinders, and at the same time, purchase 4 new regulators for those units. Additionally, I'm asking for a computer replacement for my office not to exceed $1,000, basically just for the processor itself. Even though the computer's only 5 years old, I purchased a new operating system that would hopefully allow me to complete the new state deliverables template they sent. My computer wouldn't support it, won't support the operating system. It'll open it, but it'll take about 15 minutes for it to open it. So I'm asking the council for approval just to purchase a new computer processor, which will allow me to hopefully get my deliverables and other remote work done.
Second motion from exec board to approve these expenditures. Any questions from anyone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, dovetailing, you're next.
Okay, Remo lease. We currently pay $3,500 per month for our lease. If you've all noticed, we had a temporary barrier here to keep the cold air from that hallway out. Our restock room, or an equipment room, has been maxed out. Right there, if anybody would like to look, is a storage room, roughly half the size of our back storage room. I approached the landlord one day when I met him to ask him if he'd be interested in renting that space and help us alleviate some of the overflow from the back room. He asked me to give him a price, so I threw $50 out there per month, and he was very happy to take that. We entered into a gentleman's agreement for the last month for the $50, just so we could get this work done and start moving stuff there. But I'd like to approach the council to make that a formally approved increase to the rent. Rent would go from $3,500 to $3,550 a month to reflect the addition of the new storage space.
This is a second motion to approve from the exec board as well, so any questions from anyone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any items from the floor? Anything anybody'd like to discuss? Okay, motion to adjourn, please. Nobody? Thank you, Lynn.
Actually, before adjourn, one thing that I could, just to recognize, we can do this more formally later, but to recognize Kevin as our outgoing chair, who, not his first time to his chair, I don't know how many years, but in addition to serving as chair, Kevin was CON committee chair for many years, and that's one of the more time-consuming and thankless of the jobs you can have. So just thank you to you for everything you've done.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.